And as we've talked a lot about, we'll probably all offseason until we snap that football come the end of August, the addition of Mark Gronowski. That's why you're optimistic that things can change for the Hawkeyes with their quarterback situation. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 best off seasons out of the Big Ten so far. Penn State 1, Oregon 2, Illinois 3, Indiana 4. They've got Ohio State 5th, Nebraska number 6, USC 7th, Michigan as the 8th best offseason, UCLA number 9. Remember, UCLA added Nico Iamaleava after that wild cycle in the offseason not too awfully long ago. Number 10 was Washington. And then you got to go all the way down to number 13 to find Iowa, according to the best off seasons in the Big Ten per ESPN. They had Rutgers 11, Michigan State 12, and then Iowa number 13.
If you're not looking at the players we lost through the draft, besides John Nestor, there's not really anyone prominent that we lost from last season. If anything, we've added so much more talent than we lost. We're not talking about the draft, so it's a little confusing to me. Like Mark Gronowski is the big win in the first place. Then you get another receiver on top of that. Jonah Pace, the defensive tackle. You brought Bryce Hawthorne along with Mark Gronowski from South Dakota State. When you look at those guys, how could you say that we're only 13th in the Big Ten and in offseason additions? It's crazy to me. But the blessings about these lists is we could actually take this and we can see where they end up at the end of the season. And I believe at the end of the season, our talent is really going to show. We're still going to be a top half team in the Big Ten, if not top 5, I believe.
Here's what they said. Obviously they took the production side into play. So you're right. That's kind of curious. It almost flies a little bit in the face of what some of the parameters were 1, 2, and 3 in terms of how they were evaluating this thing. But the departures for Iowa, Caleb Johnson, of course, Jay Higgins, Connor Colby, both of the linebackers, Nick Jackson. I mean, that's a lot in, almost all of your tackles, right? And then you get into Castro and Schulte. I mean, the Hawkeyes defensively in the back seven are replacing so much from a season ago. So I can understand where if you're not sold on Shaheed Barrows and the addition that you had from Purdue doesn't seem like an overnight fix for the Hawkeyes, that and you didn't go get a transfer portal linebacker, that maybe some of that would be concerning for you. But here's what they said went wrong for Iowa, according to ESPN. Iowa didn't add transfers at running back or tight end after losing Caleb Johnson and Luke Lachey, who was second in receptions. Phillips was productive at the FCS level, and top receiver Jacob Gill returns. But will that be enough to boost a passing attack that has been the worst among non-service academies over the past 4 seasons? Quarterback Brendan Sullivan, who started 3 games last season, transferred before the end of spring, although his departure wasn't a huge surprise after Iowa added Gronowski and Auburn transfer Hank Brown. And, oh, by the way, the Hawkeyes went ahead and added Hecklinski at quarterback as well. So Iowa got busy in terms of reshaping that quarterback room. Brendan Sullivan, as soon as you got Gronowski, he was not sticking around. So to me, I don't know that I evaluate that a ton if I'm looking at how successful or unsuccessful was Iowa's offseason.
And that's why I mentioned John Nestor is the only prominent guy to go, just because even though Brendan Sullivan was a key guy, we got a guy that's projected to be, more productive in a sense. So it's not like we didn't have a replacement already lined up. John Nestor, we didn't. But as you said, man, we did lose a lot on defense with the draft. And then on the O-line, too, we also lost a lot on the O-line as well. But you have to figure that, those guys that whoever was there last year is expected to step up, is going to step up just because the track record that Iowa has in developing these players. And that's why Kirk Ferentz has been there so long. And I believe that with the additions of DeSantis Phillips, again, the Mark Gronowskis, Jonah Pace, the Bryce Hawthorns, the Shaheed Barrows, I forgot to say him earlier, I believe that, Iowa's still going to be a competitive team. It's going to be not as much star power as you might say, but a very blue-collar, in the trenches, grinded out team that's going to give any team, whether you're bottom of the Big Ten or top, we're going to give you problems. It's going to be a challenge, especially with the elevation of what is expected to be our offense next year.
Okay, here's what went right for the Hawkeyes according to ESPN in its Big Ten offseason rankings for all of the Power 4 schools and the Big Ten. Here's what went right. After the Cade McNamara saga went horribly wrong, Iowa has genuine hope for a breakthrough on offense with Mark Gronowski leading the unit. He helped South Dakota State to an FCS national championship in 2023 and has eclipsed 2,700 passing yards in each of the past 3 seasons. Although he missed spring practice after shoulder surgery, he's on track for full participation this summer. Iowa added a few pieces along the defensive line, kept the players it expects to take on bigger roles throughout the defense. Ferentz continues to have great continuity on his staff with defensive coordinator Phil Parker and others.
When I hear of key players on defense that are expected to step up, the first name that comes to my mind is a guy that's been raved about by anyone else at spring practice or anyone in the building, and it's Max Llewellyn. He's expected to take a big leap this year. As we talked about previous shows, him, Xavier Nwampa is expected to have a rebound year. TJ Hall has been mentioned as a name that has been, very productive throughout spring practice. And like they said, the Cade McNamara saga did not go how fans expected it to. But when you are able to rebound from that by getting arguably the best quarterback in the transfer portal, that's a big win. And hopefully he could be what we expect him to be, what he's shown he could be, and we could take a jump. I think all around we could take a jump, but it's about how we develop these guys and how Kirk Ferentz and company builds that game plan, game to game around these new players. We didn't gain a huge amount, we didn't lose a huge amount, but at the same time, it's almost a completely different team this time around.
It was an Iowa offseason. They picked and chose a couple of guys that could help them. They got the big splash for Iowa. Yes, Mark Gronowski is a big splash. I know for some of you blue blood fans out there, maybe that doesn't move the needle as much for you, but for Iowa, where you've just been trying to get to that competent level of being able to both run and throw the football effectively, getting Gronowski is a big time splash out of the portal for the Hawkeyes. You hope that Sam Phillips coming over from Chattanooga can also add something to this wide receiver group that, Chris, I won't speak for you, but we think that with Reese Vander-Zee and Dayton Howard and Seth Anderson and maybe even KJ Parker, Jacob Gill coming back, that Weegan in that mix, that it's one of the best wide receiver groups collectively that Iowa has had in some time. And if Sam Phillips can just help you out a little bit in that group, then that's another big time addition. I thought we saw signs in the open spring practice that Jonah Pace is going to help this Iowa football team. And let's see, Bryce Hawthorne, I think, is someone that will help that defensive line. Max Llewellyn, if you're talking about guys that retention, they're back, or they've been in the program and now it's time to take that step, Max Llewellyn was somebody that really popped on the tape if you flipped it on throughout that open spring practice for the Hawkeyes. So, look, the Big Ten offseason rankings, you don't expect Iowa to be in the top 3 of the Big Ten. You don't expect Iowa to be within the top 5. At some point, if you and I, over the next however many years, Chris, sit down and we do this show, Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live, I'd love for the offseason where Iowa does crack that top 3, top 5, and they do all sorts of splashy stuff in the offseason. But that's just not who the Iowa Hawkeyes are. And that's not who they've been this offseason. They've picked and chose a couple of folks from the FCS level that they think can come in and help them. And I think that that's what they found. And hopefully that is proven to be the case, that the retention, the bits and pieces you found out of the FCS, that Iowa's found some playmakers that can help them. But it's not going to wow ESPN